The nurse asked if anyone was coming. Not in a dramatic way, just part of the checklist. Name, date of birth, allergies, emergency contact. Her pen hovered when I hesitated, which I did only for a second too long. I said, "Probably not," and then added, "It's fine." She nodded like she'd heard that before. Maybe she had. Things moved quickly after that. A doctor explained the situation in short, careful sentences. There was a risk if we waited. Consent forms slid across a tray. Someone put a bracelet on my wrist that felt tighter than it needed to be. I sent a single message to the family group chat, going into surgery. We'll update after. I didn't wait for responses. I already knew what the day was. My cousin's birthday, big one. Photos would be taken. Toasts made. My absence wouldn't register as absence. It would be explained away later, if it came up at all. In pre-op, the room was cold in the specific way hospitals choose. I stared at a ceiling tile with a faint crack running through it and tried not to think about how often I'd been I was so independent. Low maintenance. Easy. The good kind of child. The kind that didn't need to be checked on constantly. The anesthesiologist asked me to count backward. I remember thinking, briefly, that if something went wrong, the silence would be very clean. No chaos. No one rushing in late. Then there was nothing. I woke up to a dull pressure in my chest and the steady beep of a monitor that sounded like patience. My mouth was dry. My limbs felt distant, like they belonged to someone else who was resting nearby. A nurse noticed my eyes open and smiled. She told me the surgery went well. She asked how I was feeling. I said okay, because that answer requires the least explanation. When she left, I reached for my phone out of habit more than curiosity. The screen lit up immediately. One message at the top. From my mother. "We need to talk, urgently." Under it, a wall of missed calls. 89. For a moment, I thought there had been a mistake. That the phone belonged to someone else. That the numbers didn't line up with the day I had lived so far. I scrolled back. Timestamps clustered together, tight and frantic. Calls from my parents, from my aunt, from my cousin. Messages that escalated from casual to panicked. "Call us now." "Where are you? Please answer." For the doctor called. VAF. That was the first mention of anything medical beyond my own message hours earlier. I didn't call back right away. Not because I wanted to punish anyone. I didn't feel angry enough for that. I felt emptied out, like something essential had been removed along with whatever the surgeon had fixed. A nurse returned and asked if anyone was coming to see me. Visiting hours were limited. She explained the rules gently but firmly, the way authority sounds when it isn't interested in family dynamics. I told her no. She nodded again, checked my chart, and said she'd note it. Later, I learned what had happened on their end. The surgeon had called the number listed as my emergency contact, my mother. He'd explained that there had been complications. That there was a window where outcomes could change. That consent had already been given. But it was serious. The party had gone quiet after that, music off, cake untouched. Phones passed around like fragile things. Fear had arrived, late but loud. When I was moved to a regular room, my parents tried to come in. Hospital policy stopped them. The nurse explained visiting restrictions. Explained that patients could decide when they were ready. This was the authority intervention they hadn't expected. Neutral. Unemotional. Unmoved by intention. I slept through most of it. When I finally did call my mother back, it was the next day. My voice sounded different to me, flatter, steadier than I felt. She cried immediately. Apologized between breaths. Said they hadn't understood how serious it was. Said they thought I'd tell them if it was really bad. I didn't argue. I didn't list examples. I didn't bring up birthdays missed, calls returned late, the way concern always seemed to require proof. I just said, "Did tell you." After I was discharged, we met at my parents' house. Not to celebrate anything. Just to sit in the living room where I'd grown up being quiet. They were shaken. Not reflective exactly, more startled. As if they'd glimpsed a version of the future where I wasn't present to be overlooked. My father talked about how scared they'd been. My mother asked what they could do differently. My aunt said it had been a misunderstanding. My cousin hugged me too tightly and said she felt awful. I listened. Then I told them I'd changed my emergency contact. That my medical preferences were documented now. That I'd needed to do it for myself. There was a pause. Not angry. Just confused. Like a door had closed softly and they were trying to remember when it had opened. Life didn't fall apart after that. No dramatic rupture. We still speak. We still see each other. but something shifted. They check in more now, though sometimes it feels rehearsed. I answer honestly, but without the old urge to reassure them that I'm fine no matter what. I learned something in that hospital room, watching my phone light up too late. Being missed only after the possibility of loss is not the same as being held. And I don't build my life around waiting for urgency anymore.